We are announcing today that beginning with tomorrow's tournament games, we will be implementing limited access. What that means for our teams is they'll have access to 125 tickets. They'll be ticketed game by game, and we'll clear the venue after each game. Our athletic directors have decided that the tickets would go to guests of student athletes and staff members, and that we do not plan to have pep bands, cheerleaders, or dance teams as part of the group that's in. So it's the attempt is to absolutely minimize the number of people that are here, but still to find a way to conduct the events and actually get the opportunity to play the games. We have done this in consultation with a number of different entities. Among them, our conference board of directors that voted unanimously to implement this process. We also have been advised by the KU Medical Center emergency response team, the CDC, public health officials, City of Kansas City, and also the Sports Commission. And so obviously we don't do this lightly. I think it's we are blessed to have the best basketball tournament in all college basketball, and to have to take these steps is painful for everyone that's involved, but these are unusual times, and so we have taken the steps that we think are appropriate. Some of it was at the leadership of the NCAA, but I want to reiterate that I've been on the phone with my A5 colleagues 3 times today already, and I think you'll see that most of them are doing likewise. So let me stop there and address your questions. Yeah, Blair?
Does this include the women's tournament?
It does include the women's. Yeah.
Bob, can you discuss kind of the mechanism and the machinery that went into this thing? I mean, how much were you taking into account what the NCAA was saying and watching what other Power 5 leagues were doing, and in addition to talking to local folks?
Until today, we have had no one tell us that having a building full of people was ill-advised. That had been my public comment. I was confident in being in the crowd, and we were assured that it was safe to assemble those crowds. Today that began to change. Certainly the NCAA's information is a part of it. Burns Hargis, the president at Oklahoma State University, was in the Board of Governors meeting when they received a report from the advisory committee to the NCAA that includes a former Surgeon General of the United States. And little by little, we began to give thought to it. Interestingly enough, I was in a meeting at which our faculty athletics reps and our ADs and some others were actually talking about name, image, and likeness, of all things. Those tend not to be real cheery meetings, and yet it got worse by the time we got finished with it. So it's been a process that's been going on since about noon, and most recently I just got off another A5 call about 20 minutes ago. So it's been a process, but our athletics directors and our presidents and chancellors have been involved every step of the way.
Commissioner Bowlsby, Todd Lebo, Sports Radio 810 here in Kansas City. This is probably a little bit outside of your realm of expertise, but I'm assuming you've been talking to people here in the Power and Light District, or the people with Kansas City. Are you encouraging people not to go gather over there to watch the game, or is this announcement just about what's happening inside this building?
Well, one of the things we heard from Anthony Fauci, I heard it the same way everybody else heard it on television, was that it's going to get much, much worse. And so that isn't me making an assessment. That's the representative of the National Institutes of Health. And if that's his assessment, his advice was don't assemble in large crowds and use proper hygienic practices. And so I take him at his word. He's one of the foremost authorities in the country, and that was a much more severe warning than what we had heard previously. And so we drew no conclusions of our own from a medical standpoint, but relied on the best advisors we could, and including those that are advising the NCAA and our federal government.
Bob, over here.
Yeah, Dennis.
You've been in this game a long time. I think you were, if not the chairman of the selection committee, on the selection committee at one point. What does this whole day and thing mean to you personally?
Well, I was actually explaining to our ADs that the closest thing I've had to this experience was when I was on the basketball committee. The Department of Defense was actually in contact with us about initiating hostilities in Iraq. And we had some very oddly timed conference calls, and I always thought it was exceedingly strange that we would be a part of anything that had to do with a military operation. But the representatives made us understand just how important March Madness is to the culture of our country, and how disconcerting it would be to not play the tournament. And so from that point, perhaps before that, but certainly from that point, you just get a feeling for how much a part of Americana this tournament is. And so I consider our tournament an extension of that, and this is going to be disruptive in ways that nothing else has been relative to the NCAA tournament. So I care deeply about the tournament. I was on the committee for 5 years and served twice as the chair, and it's I've also just recently talked with Dan Gavitt, and he feels awful about the way it's gone. That we all look forward to this time of year, and this just isn't any fun.
And maybe a different question for a different time, but is there a way for fans to get their money back? Is that going to be announced later?
Yeah, we'll certainly go through a refund process. We haven't had an opportunity to talk with the folks here at the Sprint Center, and as you know, perhaps a lot of the tickets are distributed by the schools themselves, and so I think each refund process will be an individual undertaking, but certainly that's our intention. And I just would like to apologize to all of our fans that are not going to be able to be in the venues. They really look forward to this, and as I said earlier, I think it's the best tournament of its kind in the country, and so I'm very sorry to disrupt what I know is a much anticipated weekend for a lot of people.
Yeah, Bob, was there any talk today about tonight's session doing the same thing, or did the deadline become just too much of a policy?
Yeah, I took a little bit of a leap, I guess probably personally, because it was a little after 4 when I got done with one of the conference calls, and I asked Jeff to contact our colleagues at the building, and we were going to open it at 4:30, I think, and we asked them to hold off on it for a while because we actually were considering whether that was a practical thing. And in the end, while it is a large gathering of people, we felt like the disruption and people that were already here and parked and outside the venue and might be it just might be more dangerous to not go forward with it. And so in the interest of trying to manage it as efficiently as we possibly could, I made the decision that we would play tonight with a regular crowd.
Bob, should schools not go through with spring football, you think?
Gosh, Randy, I don't know. I'm a little hesitant to even weigh in on it because each one of the schools is dealing with this on their own. Some have talked about having a period of extended vacation after spring break where kids are really not even invited to come back to campus, and so I think campus housing is an issue, and I think that it's got a lot of moving parts, and individual schools are going to have to make their own decisions on it, but at a time when it's ill-advised for students to be on campus, we have to spend some time in the next few days just thinking about our spring championships and our spring regular season. If institution A is not open, can you really be expected to play a baseball game on their campus? It just doesn't seem very feasible, and so I think that we have to do give a lot of thought to how that fits together. It's both the championships and it's the regular season competition, and there's a lot of it. We have baseball, softball, equestrian. We've got outdoor track and field. We've just got a lot of things going between now and the end of the year.
Sorry for kind of a self-serving question, but for media, do you still want media to come out in as larger groups as they have, the next few days for this tournament?
The media, credentialed media, is welcome to be here. We hope that you and everybody that's associated with it will use, appropriate hygienic considerations and take appropriate protections. But and I think there probably will be some limitations on your access to student athletes and coaches. To be frank about it, I think we'll be thoughtful about that. There may be certain pathways that are not available to you. I think it will necessitate some changes, but those are still in the planning process.
If each team is getting 125 tickets for fans and friends and family, how do you make sure that those who are invited are checked to be sure that they're following the hygiene rules and keeping the environment safe?
Well, the institutions are going to have to determine how the tickets are used, and we haven't worked our way all the way through the logistics of all of that just yet. But that's part of the reason why we plan to ticket on a game-by-game basis, so that we don't inadvertently create a secondary market. And this is a work in progress, and we still have work to do.
Yeah, Bob, over on your left, a follow-up, you said you made the decision to hold the doors and then go ahead and open them. The entire decision, was that a vote of the ADs, the presidents?
No,
was that just you making the decision, or how was that determined?
No, we ran out of time, so I had to kind of make the decision on this evening, and but the decision on the rest of the tournament was made by our board of directors.
Any additional questions? Okay.
Thank you all.